Let you in here. This is a private event. Service staff use the side entrance." The woman who said it did not lower her voice. She said it the way people say things, when they want the room to hear. The room heard. Kezia Mensah-Osei stood at the entrance of the Hartwell Tower atrium, with a glass of water in her hand that a passing waiter had given her before she could refuse it. She was wearing a plain black dress, no label, no logo. Her hair was natural, pulled back. Her earrings were small gold studs that had belonged to her grandmother. Had taken the subway from her office in the distillery district because parking downtown on a Thursday evening was a specific kind of absurd. She looked at the woman who had spoken. Cassandra Hartwell, 51, wife of the founder, co-chair of the Hartwell Group's social initiatives, was standing with a champagne flute in one hand and the expression of a woman who had spent decades believing that her opinion of a room was the room's final word. She wore a gown the color of crushed rose gold, had a publicist and a stylist and a personal assistant whose entire job was to ensure she never had to experience an inconvenient moment. This was going to be an inconvenient moment. "I have an invitation," Kezia said. "Of course you do," Cassandra said. She smiled the way people smile when they say "of course," and mean nothing of the sort. This was the Hartwell Tower grand opening, the event Toronto's financial press had been covering for 4 months. 42 floors of glass and steel on Bay Street, the tallest privately commissioned commercial building in the city since 2011. $200 million of construction, 12 years from blueprint to ribbon. Hartwell Group had sent 300 invitations on cream cardstock with embossed silver lettering. A guest list included 2 cabinet ministers, the mayor of Toronto, 14 Bay Street executives, 7 foreign diplomats, and a table of journalists from the Globe and Mail, the Financial Post, and BNN Bloomberg. Kezia Mensah-Osei had received her invitation 6 weeks ago in a plain white envelope addressed to her office. She had set it on her desk beside her coffee and read it once and put it in the drawer. And she had not planned to come. And 3 days ago, her legal counsel, a woman named Philippa Tran, had called her at 11 o'clock at night. "Need to go," Philippa had said. "I know," Kezia had said. "You don't, they'll cut the ribbon and the moment passes and we have nothing." "Oh, I know." Jez. I'll be there, Phil." Had ironed the black dress herself that morning. She did not own a stylist. She did not own a publicist. She owned a structural engineering firm called Mensah Technical Group that ran out of a converted loft space on Trinity Street, with 11 employees, 4 of whom had doctorates, and 1 of whom, Kezia herself, had published 3 peer-reviewed papers in the Canadian Journal of Civil Engineering before the age of 31. She was 31. She had taken the subway. She had arrived at the atrium and been handed a glass of water by a kind waiter named Samuel, who had smiled at her with the warmth of someone who was on his 4th hour of a 6-hour shift and was still choosing to be decent. She had smiled back. She had walked toward the center of the room. Had gotten 14 steps. "I'm a guest tonight," Kezia said. She kept her voice flat and even, the voice she used in depositions. "I was sent an invitation by the Hartwell Group directly." Cassandra extended 2 fingers toward the invitation in Kezia's hand without actually touching it, the way you might gesture at a document you've already decided is fraudulent. "And who exactly invited you, sweetheart?" Sweetheart was audible from 6 feet in every direction. 2 women near the bar turned. A man in a dark suit paused mid-handshake. A journalist from the Financial Post, a woman named Odette Kowalski, who had come tonight to file 250 words on the ribbon cutting, lowered her champagne and turned a page in her notebook. "Hartwell Group sent the invitation," Kezia said. "If you need confirmation, you can speak to whoever manages your guest registry." "What I need," Cassandra said, is for you to take yourself back to wherever it is you came from before I have to make this embarrassing for you." "I think we're past that," Kezia said quietly. Cassandra's smile tightened. She reached out and placed 2 fingers against Kezia's shoulder. Not a push, not yet. Just the pressure of a woman who had never in her adult life been told that her hands did not belong wherever she put them. She steered, like you steer a shopping cart, like a body is a thing you can direct with casual authority. "The event is for invited guests," Cassandra said, voice still pleasant, still carrying. "Perhaps you misread an email. It happens. The service exit is through the lobby, past the second set of doors on your left." Kezia did not move. A younger woman arrived from the left side of the room at a practiced pace. This was Brielle Hartwell, 28, daughter-in-law, recently married to the founder's eldest son, currently the face of a Hartwell Group lifestyle initiative that had a website and an Instagram account with 400,000 followers, and a mandate that Brielle described in interviews as elevating community voices. Her dress was camel-colored and architectural. The kind of dress that photographs from every angle. Had read about Kezia once, months ago, in a short paragraph, in a business column. She had not retained the paragraph. She retained the kind of information that was immediately useful to her, and that paragraph had not been. "Mom," Brielle said to Cassandra, using the word with the particular fluency of a daughter-in-law who understood which words to deploy for which rooms. "Is there a problem?" "There's no problem," Cassandra said. "Our guest was just leaving." "I'm not leaving," Kezia said. Elle looked at her. Her expression was not unkind. It was something more complicated than unkind. It was the expression of a woman who had decided very early that some battles were not hers to absorb. "I see your invitation," Brielle asked. Kezia handed it to her. Elle looked at it. She turned it over. The silver embossing was the same as every other invitation in the room. Kezia's name was printed clearly at the top. Brielle's expression shifted, a fraction, almost too small to measure. And she handed it to Cassandra. Cassandra looked at it. She looked at it for 3 full seconds, which was long enough for Odette Kowalski to take out her phone and angle it slightly toward the group. Cassandra handed it back. "Had fraudulent RSVPs before," Cassandra said smoothly. "It's nothing personal. If you contact the events office on Monday, they can verify your records." Reached out again. The same 2 fingers, the same practiced steer. "Thank you for stopping by." Kezia looked at her. Then she looked at Brielle. Then she looked at the room. The 200 people who had been glancing over for the past 4 minutes, some with curiosity, and some with mild entertainment, and some with the particular discomfort of people who know something is wrong, but have decided that the social cost of saying so is too high. She looked at the ceiling. The ceiling of the Hartwell Tower atrium was 50 feet high. The structural system that held it there, a post-tensioned concrete grid with cantilevered glass panels and a central load-bearing spine, visible through the glass from 3 angles. The design had taken Kezia's team 14 months. The engineering drawings had gone through 9 revisions. Had slept in her office twice during the final approval process. She knew every number in that ceiling. She knew the load tolerances, knew the wind coefficients. She knew the thermal expansion calculations for a Toronto, January, because she had run them herself at 2 in the morning with a cup of cold coffee and the kind of focused quiet that only exists when you are the only person still awake in a building. She reached into her bag. She did not take out the document yet. Looked at Cassandra Hartwell. "I'd like to stay," Kezia said, "until the ribbon is cut." Cassandra's smile remained. Her eyes did not match it. "That's simply not going to happen, sweetheart." Then Gordon Hartwell arrived. Gordon Hartwell, 64, founder of the Hartwell Group, silver hair, 3 honorary degrees, A handshake, like a closing argument, moved through his own gala. With the ease of a man who had spent 4 decades owning the rooms he entered, had built the Hartwell Group from a property management company in Scarborough in 1987 into a development corporation with 9 active projects across Ontario and Alberta. He told this story at every dinner. It had the clean arc of something practiced until it felt spontaneous. His memoir, which had sold modestly, was called Building Up. I saw the small knot of people near the entrance. He saw his wife smile. He saw Brielle's careful face. He saw the black woman in the plain dress who had not moved. He began to cross the room. Been told once by an executive coach in 2009 that the secret to his leadership presence was that he always arrived to situations rather than being arrived at. He had found this useful. He arrived now with both hands loose at his sides and his chin slightly forward. "What have we got here?" he said pleasantly, as though this were a mildly interesting development in a meeting he was chairing. "This woman claims to have an invitation," Cassandra said. "Don't claim to have it," Kezia said. "I have it." Gordon looked at her. Something moved behind his eyes, not recognition, not quite. He had reviewed the guest list 3 weeks ago and signed off on 300 names. He had not memorized 300 names. "Darling," he said to Cassandra, in a voice calibrated for the people listening and not for his wife, "let's not make a fuss. If she has an invitation may be counterfeit," Cassandra said. Gordon looked at Kezia. "Yes, and I see it?" Kezia handed it to him. Looked at it. He turned it over. He handed it back. "That's our printing," he said to Cassandra, just below the room's hearing. Gordon. "It's our printing," he said again. Then he turned back to Kezia with the smile he used for situations he had already decided to manage away. "I apologize for any confusion. The evening can get hectic. Please enjoy yourself." I began to turn away. "Actually," Kezia said, "I'd like to speak with you before the ribbon cutting." Gordon turned back. His smile held, but the quality of it changed. It became the smile you put on when someone uses the word "actually." "I'm afraid the schedule tonight is quite tight." "No," Kezia said, "I'll be brief. It concerns the building." Something in Gordon's face shifted. He was not a stupid man. He had not built what he built by ignoring shifts. "After the ribbon," he said. Kezia said. Was not aggressive. She was not loud. She was the specific kind of calm that reads, to people who have spent their lives navigating powerful rooms, as something that requires attention. Gordon Hartwell had met this kind of calm in boardrooms and depositions and across negotiating tables, and he associated it, accurately, with outcomes. Looked at her for 3 seconds. "Minutes," he said, after the opening remarks. Walked away. Cassandra watched him go. She looked at Kezia with an expression that had shed its pleasantness entirely. "Have a lot of nerve," she said quietly now, just for Kezia. "I've been told," Kezia said. Found us out a seat near the edge of the room. She did not drink the champagne that a waiter offered. She placed her bag on her lap with both hands resting on top of it, and she waited. Opening remarks lasted 18 minutes. Gordon Hartwell spoke about vision and legacy, and the city of Toronto and the future of Canadian architecture. He thanked his team. He thanked the construction partners. He thanked the engineers who had made it possible. He named 4 firms. He used the phrase world-class 6 times. He did not name Mensah Technical Group. Had not named Mensah Technical Group in any press release, any groundbreaking announcement, or any interview over the past 2 years of construction. Mensah Technical Group had designed every load-bearing element in the building, the foundation system, the atrium ceiling, the cantilevered east wing, the seismic retrofit protocol that had been incorporated after the 2022 soil study. Every structural drawing had Kezia's signature on it, her firm's stamp. her engineer's seal. The contract they had signed in 2021 had included a credits clause. The Hartwell Group had agreed in writing to cite Mensah Technical Group as structural engineer of record in all public communications related to the building. Had not cited them once. Lipa Tran had sent 4 letters. She had received 3 form responses and 1 email from a junior legal coordinator asking her to clarify the nature of her concern. She had clarified it. She had heard nothing for 60 days. And the ribbon-cutting date had appeared in the press. The event was covered in the Globe, in the Star, in a long profile in Toronto Life that described the building's architecture in loving detail and named the architect, the interior designer, the lighting consultant, and the landscape firm, and did not mention the structural engineer at all. Lipa had called Kezia at 11 o'clock at night. "No need to go," she had said. Now the remarks were ending. Gordon Hartwell stepped down from the low platform near the building's entrance, where a wide ribbon of deep blue silk had been stretched across the glass doors, and he moved toward the cluster of officials and executives who were arranging themselves for the photograph. Kezia stood, walked to the edge of the platform. She said Gordon's name once, quietly. Turned. The smile was back, managed and practiced. "Mims?" "Mensah-Osei," she said. "Kezia Mensah-Osei, Mensah Technical Group." Something moved behind his eyes. This time, she watched it move. "Of course," he said, in the voice of a man buying himself 4 seconds. "Of course, yes. This is I'm the structural engineer of record for this building," Kezia said. She was not loud. She did not need to be. 2 members of the press were 3 feet away. Every load-bearing design in this atrium, the foundation system, the east cantilever, the seismic protocol, all of it came from my firm. Gordon's smile had not moved. It had simply stopped being connected to anything. "We're very glad to work with Mensah Technical," he said. "Agreed in writing to cite us publicly," Kezia said. "I believe that's a matter for our legal teams. I have the contract with me." Opened her bag. She took out a thin black portfolio. She opened it on the edge of the platform. Inside were 3 documents, clipped in order. The 2021 Services Agreement between Mensah Technical Group and the Hartwell Group, 11 pages, signatures on the last page. The credits clause, paragraph 7.4, highlighted in yellow. A compiled log of every public communication the Hartwell Group had released about the Hartwell Tower in the past 24 months, with a column on the right side marking each one where Mensah Technical Group had not been credited as required. There were 41 entries in that column. Lipa had stayed up until 1 in the morning on Monday compiling it. There, Kezia laid the contract on top and stepped back so that the 2 nearest press people could see it clearly. Odette Kowalski of the Financial Post was already writing. Gordon Hartwell looked at the document. He looked at Kezia. His jaw was doing something it did not usually do in public rooms. "This is not the appropriate venue," he began. "I agree," Kezia said. "I've been trying to find the appropriate venue for 8 months. Your legal team hasn't provided one." L. Hartwell, who had drifted back toward the platform during the remarks and was now standing 4 feet to the left, looked at the contract. She looked at Kezia. She looked at her father-in-law. The expression on her face was the expression of someone recalibrating several things at once. Cassandra Hartwell appeared at Gordon's shoulder. She had come from the bar, champagne still in hand, smile still in place. But the smile had the quality of something held together with effort rather than ease. "Gordon, the photographer is waiting." "Oh, 1 moment, Cassie." Angie looked at Kezia. Then she looked at the documents on the platform. Something in her face moved, past the pleasantness, past the practiced management, into something rawer, something that was not quite embarrassment, and was not quite anger, but was the feeling a person has when they realize they have made a categorical error in a room full of witnesses. "Is this some kind of stunt?" she said. Her voice was lower now. "It's a contract," Kezia said. "Meant what you're doing. Coming in here, making a scene." "Aim as a guest," Kezia said. "You called me service staff twice and tried to walk me out through the lobby. I'm not making a scene, Mrs. Hartwell. I'm just still here." A journalist from the Globe and Mail, a man named Bertrand Lacroix, who had covered Bay Street for 19 years and had the posture of someone who had learned that the best place to stand at an event like this was always slightly to the side of where things were about to happen, stepped closer. He was not recording. He was listening the way journalists listen when they are not recording. Gordon Hartwell put one hand out, palm forward. It was the same gesture a traffic officer makes, the gesture of a man who believes a raised hand can stop an outcome. "Ms. Mensah-Osei," he said. "I think there has clearly been a serious administrative oversight on our part, and I take full responsibility for the lack of communication from our legal team. I would like to invite you to a meeting next week to discuss." "Ribbon cutting is in 4 minutes," Kezia said. Yes. I'd like Mensah Technical Group acknowledged before you cut it." Annie Gordon stared. Atrium was quiet enough now that the string quartet still playing near the west windows had become audible in a way it hadn't been 20 minutes ago. The guests near the platform were not pretending to look elsewhere anymore. They were looking directly at the platform with the candid attention of people who had stopped performing indifference. "Gordon," Cassandra said. Looked at her. She gave him nothing useful. Looked at Kezia. He was calculating. She could see him calculating. 40 years of development deals had made him extremely good at calculating, and the calculation he was running now had several variables, including the 2 journalists, the contract on the platform, the 41 entries in Philippa's log, and the fact that the building they were all standing inside of had been designed, structurally, entirely, by the woman in the plain black dress who had arrived by subway and had not raised her voice once. "Of course," he said finally. Said it like a man deciding to call it a strategic retreat instead of a defeat. Walked to the ribbon. He picked up the microphone that the events coordinator handed him. He looked out at the room. "Before we cut the ribbon," he said, "I want to take a moment to recognize a critical partner in this project." The structural engineering behind Hartwell Tower was led by Mensah Technical Group, headed by Kezia Mensah-Osei. Every load-bearing element in this building, from the foundation up, is a result of her firm's work. We should have said this sooner, and publicly, and we didn't. That was wrong. Her room was very quiet. And it applauded. Not a standing ovation. A slow building, genuine applause, the kind that starts with a few people and then moves, the kind that can't be organized. Bertrand Lacroix was writing. Odette Kowalski had stopped taking notes and was now recording on her phone. She would check with Kezia afterward for permission to quote, and Kezia would say yes to 1 sentence. 1 sentence was all it needed. Ribbon fell. Cassandra Hartwell stood 3 feet from her husband with her champagne glass still in her hand. She had not applauded. She was looking at the building, the atrium ceiling, close-tensioned grid visible through the glass above, the cantilevered panels, the central spine. She had looked at this ceiling 200 times in the past 8 months. She had held events in this atrium, had posed for photographs under this chandelier. She had never once asked who calculated the load. Looked at Kezia. And Kezia was not looking at her, she was looking at the ceiling. The expression on her face was not triumph, and it was not vindication, and it was something quieter than both of those, the expression of someone looking at something they built and recognizing it. Later, in the lobby, while the guests moved toward the dinner tables and the string quartet shifted to something warmer, a young woman named Talia came up to Kezia. Talia was 23, 1 year out of an engineering program at the University of Waterloo, currently working as a junior draftsperson at a mid-sized firm in North York, and she had been invited tonight as the +1 of her mentor, who had stepped away to speak to someone. She had watched everything from near the dessert table. "I don't want to bother you," Talia said. Not," Kezia said. "Engineer," Talia said. "Junior, just starting out." She paused. "I just wanted to say I think what you did was..." She stopped. "It was just the contract," Kezia said. "It was always just the contract." Talia nodded. She looked like she wanted to say something else. She said, "Thank you," instead, which was the right thing, and she walked back toward the dessert table. Philippa Tran appeared at Kezia's elbow at 9:42 p.m., having arrived. During the ribbon cutting, with a file folder under her arm and the expression of a woman who had been ready to do something harder than this and was quietly glad she hadn't needed to. "Financial Post reporter wants a comment," Philippa said. "One sentence," Kezia said. "Ed, what sentence?" Kezia thought about it. She thought about the 2021 contract and the 9 revisions and the 2 nights on the office couch and the 14 months of engineering drawings and the 4 unanswered letters, and Samuel the waiter who had handed her water with warmth on a long shift, and the ceiling above them and the load it held. "Every structural element in this building was designed by my firm," she said. "We're glad it's standing." Philippa wrote it down. Financial Post piece ran the following Tuesday under the headline, "Left Off the Blueprint." How the Hartwell Group failed to credit the engineer who designed their tower. Byline, Odette Kowalski. 1,900 words, 4 photographs, including one of Kezia's engineering stamp on the original foundation drawings, which Philippa had sent over Monday morning. A piece was read 140,000 times in the first 48 hours. The Globe ran a follow-up on Wednesday. CBC picked it up Thursday morning. By Friday, the engineers and geoscientists of Ontario had issued a statement about attribution standards in the profession. Hartwell Group's legal team sent Philippa an email on Thursday afternoon proposing a meeting. Philippa responded within the hour. She was available Monday. She brought 2 associates. A settlement, reached 6 weeks later, required the Hartwell Group to credit Mensah Technical Group as structural engineer of record in all existing and future public materials related to Hartwell Tower, including a permanent plaque in the atrium. It required a formal written acknowledgement of the credits clause violation. It included a financial component, the terms of which were not disclosed, which Philippa described privately over the phone to Kezia as correct. The plaque went up on a Thursday in February. It was 8 inches by 14 inches, brushed steel, mounted on the east wall of the atrium near the cantilevered wing. It read, in clean sans serif, Structural Engineering, Mensah Technical Group. Lead Engineer, Kezia Mensah-Osei, P.Eng. Kezia went to see it at 7 in the morning, before the building opened for business. She went alone. She stood in the empty atrium, with the winter light coming through the glass ceiling, and she looked at the plaque for a moment, and then she looked up at the ceiling it was referencing. At a meeting at 9, she took the subway back to the distillery district. She was at her desk by 8:30. On the corner of her desk, beside her coffee, was a small object that had not been there before the Hartwell evening. One of her engineers, a young man named Quasi, who had been with the firm for 2 years and had worked the foundation calculations the longest, had left it there without explanation. It was a small steel hex nut, the kind used in the post-tensioning system, the kind you could hold between 2 fingers. It sat in a small glass dish, catching the morning light. Kezia left it there. Walked past a woman in a plain dress doing her job tonight. And you assumed she was the help. Ask yourself who told you that. then ask yourself what else they got wrong. I keep thinking about that ceiling. The one Kezia had calculated load tolerances for at 2 in the morning with cold coffee and no one watching. She knew every number in it, and the people standing underneath it had no idea she existed. That's the part that stays with me. There's something that happens when you do real work in the world. Not performance, not positioning, actual work, and then watch someone else take a bow in front of it. I've seen it happen to people I respect. I've felt a version of it myself, smaller than Kezia's situation, but the same shape. The invisibility isn't an accident. It's a habit some people have of looking at a room and deciding, before they've learned anything, who belongs in it and who built it. Sandra Hartwell looked at a woman in a plain black dress and made a decision in under 4 seconds. She didn't ask a question. She issued a direction. And the reason she felt entitled to do that wasn't malice, exactly. It was something quieter and more durable than malice. It was the assumption that she already knew, that her read of the room was the room's final word. That assumption is expensive. It cost her public standing, her husband's credibility, and whatever ease she thought she had in that atrium. It cost the Hartwell Group a settlement, a formal acknowledgement, and a plaque they had to install, because a contract they had signed and then ignored turned out to be real. I guess Kezia wasn't dramatic in the way we usually expect justice to be dramatic. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a speech. She brought a contract, she laid it on a platform, and she waited for the room to catch up to the facts. That's a specific kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need an audience to function. She had been building that strength for years, in the work itself, in the precision of it, in the choice to do the calculations right even when no one was checking. Think about Talia, the young engineer who came up to her near the end of the evening and couldn't quite find the words, who said thank you because it was the truest thing available. What Talia saw that night wasn't just one woman getting a plaque on a wall. She saw what it looks like when your integrity outlasts someone else's arrogance. When the work you did quietly and correctly becomes, eventually, undeniable. That's the thing about doing something real. You can be ignored. You can be walked toward the service exit by a woman in a rose gold gown who has decided, without evidence, that you don't belong, but the foundation you poured is still the foundation. The ceiling you calculated is still the ceiling. The numbers don't change because someone chose not to read them. I take from Kezia's story isn't that she won, though she did. It's that she never needed the room's permission to know what she had built. She knew it at 2 in the morning in her office. She knew it on the subway on the way to the event. She knew it when she stood under that atrium ceiling and looked up and recognized it. That kind of knowing is something you earn slowly, through the honest accumulation of work done well, through the discipline of caring about the thing itself, and not only about who notices. It's the only thing that holds when someone tries to walk you out through the lobby. X-nut Kezia left on her desk is the detail I can't get out of my head. No card, no explanation. Just the small steel piece from the post-tensioning system, sitting in a glass dish catching light. He knew what it meant. So did she. Oh, do you? If you've ever built something that mattered and had to wait for the room to catch up,